Welcome back, Proppers. Today's project will be a representation of our great state of Florida. Yes, I am Florida Man. I got this gator skull several years ago. Today's project will be making a replica out of EVA foam. We'll start off by making a template out of foil and gray tape. I'll wrap the foil around the bottom jaw of the gator to keep the gray tape from sticking to it. To ensure an accurate template, make sure that the foil is tightly pressed to the form and curvature of the jaw. The gray tape is applied in several layers for a more stable template. And then all the openings and orifices are cut out with the X-Acto knife. The tape around the gum line and teeth are carefully removed with the X-Acto knife. For easy removal of the tape from the jaw, sharply curved sections are split with the X-Acto knife. The tape template is split in half to simplify making the final template. Cuts are made wherever necessary to flatten out the template. You can put your registration marks in before you do this process, but I didn't find it necessary for this particular project. After flattening out the temporary tape template, I secured two pieces of cardboard together so I can make the final permanent template. I initially attached the two boards with gray tape, but later I came back with a strip of cardboard and contact cement to make a more permanent solution. After transferring the shape of the temporary template to the cardboard, I used a large needle to mark out the curvature line. Before making the final cuts, all of the lines and curvatures were evened out by freehand. To cut out the thicker cardboard template, I utilized a box cutter. I got a bit concerned that the two halves weren't lining up together. Then I realized that an alligator's face is no more symmetrical than ours. The curvature lines were scored with the box cutter, but not cut all the way through. This was done to get an accurate test fit of the cardboard template on the gator skull. After assuring that everything was lining up properly, the pieces were cut out of 6mm EVA foam. It's important to map out the cuts to get the most efficient use of your EVA foam. Here, as in most of my projects, I'm using Steve K's HD foam from SKS Props. Again, I'm using a large needle to transfer the contour lines onto the EVA foam. After marking out the curvature lines, I used a heat gun to soften up the EVA foam so I could form the curvatures. The pieces are then taped to the lower jaw to help lock in the curvature. The EVA foam is also secured with tape between the openings. With the preparations for the bottom jaw completed, I set it aside and get started on the top of the head. The same procedure of tin foil and gray tape is used to make the preliminary template. To make things a little easier, I start cutting out some of the orifices before applying the gray tape. Once again, to make the preliminary template a lot stronger, multiple layers of gray tape is applied. The inner ridge of all the openings are marked out for cutting. Bottom edge of the skull is also marked out for cutting. A template is also made for the upper palate of the skull. Both preliminary templates are cut wherever necessary to flatten them out to create the final cardboard template. The rough lines are then smoothened out in preparation for cutting. The top center section of the gator skull is elevated. I cut that section to separate it from the rest of the skull, but later on I decided to use a different method. Since I wasn't too sure on exactly which method I would use, I decided to make a separate template for that raised section of the skull. To get that inward curvature of the jawline, I marked out a half-inch line around the perimeter. Time to unwrap another roll of Steve K's HD foam. The templates were all transferred onto 6mm EVA foam and cut out. The curvature marks were punched out with a large needle, and the edges were all sanded down with my Dremel rotary tool. The EVA foam was then heated and softened with the heat gun to form the curvatures. The expansion notch on the front of the skull was closed with contact cement. The pallet was first heated, formed, sanded, and then attached to the gator skull with contact cement. A 1/4-inch strip is left between the pallet and the gator jaw on each side to accommodate the teeth. The edges were then smoothed out with the Dremel rotary tool. I used pieces of 10mm EVA foam in various shapes and sizes to mimic the inner structure of the skull. This was completely arbitrary. I went entirely by sight and got as close to the original structure as I could. The raised section of the top center of the skull was attached. To keep that section elevated, small pieces of 10mm foam strips were formed and attached with contact cement. Small pieces of EVA foam dowels were used to create that bony structure that connected that section of the head to the rest of the skull. I finished up some of the inner workings of the skull, including the hinge joint that allowed the two halves to work together. After cleaning up some of the edges and the marked lines, I used my Dremel tool to add some texture. It was time to go back to work on the bottom jaw. After removing all the gray tape, I used some contact cement to connect the two halves together. The curvatures were held in place while making the connection. EVA foam dowels were contact cemented into the bottom jaw to keep the separation and definition. If any of you viewers haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do so now. And don't forget to press the like button and the bell notification so you'll be notified when new videos are uploaded. A small piece of stiff wire was placed in the bend of the EVA foam to help stabilize it. The foam dowel was then sealed into the bottom section of the jaw, leaving the top section open. EVA foam dowels were also sealed into the back section of the jaw, past the gum line. With the foam jaw connecting, completely covering the dowel. A 1/4-inch strip of 6mm EVA foam is contact cemented between the gum line and the front section of the jaw. The strip is placed in recessed a 1/4 inch from the top, creating a secure pocket for the teeth. Any excess foam in the front of the jaw is trimmed down and sealed. I make some final adjustments to the top of the skull using my Dremel tool and some foam clay. Raising some points on the skull with foam clay for definition and detail. Any rough scenes that I'm not happy with are also smoothened out with some foam clay. As I did with the top of the skull, I have to create the sockets for the bottom section of the jaw that allow the two halves to work together. Using small strips of 2mm EVA foam to lock in the curvatures. To create the rear bony structure of the bottom jaw, I attach blocks of 10mm EVA foam and then hand sculpt them. For safety, don't forget to use eye protection as well as a respirator when sanding down any material. Any remaining gaps in the structure are filled with foam clay. With the socket joints completed, the last section of the jawline is sealed and sanded. I'm using some foam clay to add some more definition and detail to the top section of the skull. I know it all looks very funky now, but come on, you guys know how I roll. It'll all work out in the end. The entire skull gets one coat of gray Plasti Dip, then one coat of white Plasti Dip, and it's finished off with a coat of heirloom white spray paint. I thought that all I had left to do was to attach the teeth, but I wasn't happy with the jawline, so I had to make some adjustments. With the bottom jaw completed, it was time to get started on the top section of the skull. Same as the bottom jaw, small notches were cut into the top section of the skull to accommodate the teeth. Instant glue was also used there to seal the teeth in place. And this marks the end of this project. Once again, I'm so happy to have your support and patronage. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, press that like button, and press the bell notification so you'll know when future videos are uploaded. Once again, thanks for watching.